When I was 35 years old, I woke up one day to a crazy reality. My leg was completely paralyzed. And all of a sudden, the pain that I had been feeling in my back for over 10 years was something that I couldn't ignore anymore. This was one of the lowest points of my life, and I didn't know if I'd ever get my life back, being active, being the athlete that I was. But fast forward now, 7 years later, I'm 42 years old, and I'm confident in my body and that I can do things and move confidently unlike I could in the past. But I've also been able to help hundreds of people do the same, get over their back pain, and reclaim their lives. Now, this is all thanks to my method, the Body Rebuild System. And like you saw in the title of this video, it requires no surgery, no painful injections or crazy interventions. And simply by watching this video, I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process and what's required so that you can break your chronic pain cycle. And the best thing about this is you can do it entirely by yourself in the comfort of your own home. So now, before we get into that, if you're new to my channel, my name is Darcy, and I have a personal mission to help as many people solve their back pain as possible. So make sure you subscribe and give me a like. All right, let's get into it. Okay, step one was I needed to stop aggravating my back and I needed to fix my spine hygiene practices. Essentially, what I needed to do is stop picking the scab. And so you might be wondering, what the heck is picking the scab? Well, it's like when you have a scab on your arm and you just keep picking it and it takes forever to heal and then you get a big scar over it. The same can be said about your back recovery. All the things that you do every single day are going to be the biggest factors in your recovery. How you sit, how you stand, how you walk, how you sleep, how you pick things up. And so the first thing that I had to figure out was, how am I supposed to sit when I sit? I started using a lumbar support pillow, for example, which allowed me to sit up properly and not put strain on my back. When standing or walking, I started to pay attention to the position of my hips, my pelvis, making sure that I wasn't sticking my butt out or rounding too much. When I was sleeping, I started to modify the position that I slept in, making sure that my pelvis and my back was supported so that when I woke up in the morning, I felt fresh and rejuvenated rather than in pain and sore. Of course, learning how to bend over and lift things. You might feel right now even just putting your socks on or tying your shoes is a tedious task. So it's important that you learn how to bend over while you're in this chronic pain cycle. And when you come out of it, you really need to learn how to move properly so that your back is not doing all the work. So no matter how much rehab I did, when I wasn't practicing spine hygiene, I was just undoing all the work that I did. So I would do my rehab and then I would move around improperly all day, which just undid all the work. And once I figured out how to manage this, that's when things really started to change. That's when my pain started to subside and I started to regain control of the situation. The next big thing was load management. And so this is the idea of, hey, how much do I move and how much do I rest? And finding the right balance between the two. If you watch sports, athletes talk about load management all the time because if they push their bodies too hard, they're more susceptible to injury. And when you're in an injured state or chronic pain state, load management is super important. I used to follow this approach of just pushing through, not resting, and thinking the more that I did, the better that I would get. So finding out that balance between how much I needed to move and how much I needed to rest was a game changer. And so what did I do to start to understand this process? The first thing was stop pushing through the pain. Before, I would just say, hey, I got to do these rehab exercises. If it hurts, it doesn't matter. Just keep pushing, keep pushing. And obviously this led to more problems. The next thing was I started prioritizing active recovery. So things like gentle mobility exercises or just saying, hey, today I'm not going to work out, but I'm going to go for a walk or do some meditation instead. Another big game changer was progressing my movements accordingly. And so taking that progressive approach, not just jumping right to deadlifts, but rather doing something more regressed and then slowly building up my pain tolerance. I can't even bend down and pick up my shoes or tie my shoes or put my socks on. How am I expected to do a deadlift properly? And last, just listening to my body. When does it hurt? What hurts? How should I be moving forward with regards to the pain that my body is experiencing? Using that as a metric towards what type of movement I should do or how much I should rest. And so the big takeaway here is training smart, not hard, and understanding that there's going to be a balance you need to find between how hard you push and how much you rest. The third thing I needed to focus on was starting to do strengthening exercises versus stretching exercises. And this is a common mistake I was making and people make all the time. They think my muscles are tight, I need to stretch them. A lot of times what's happening is the muscles are weak and stretching them isn't building strength. And so the feeling of feeling tight is a protective mechanism to protect the muscles from stretching, because the stretching will indeed hurt them. And so when your body's tight, overstretching them isn't going to bring you as much value as strengthening. Specifically in this case, core and glute strength. And so when I started focusing on that versus stretching everything out, everything started to change, because I was able to take those stabilizing muscles, give them more strength, and other areas of my body that were compensating were allowed to relax. So when you have like tight hamstrings, or you have a tight spot in your glute down there, a lot of times that's not because they need to be stretched, it's because they're doing too much work and you need to strengthen other areas so that those areas aren't doing all the work. So some of the key exercises that I used to do when I had a morning routine was glute bridges every day, side planks, and bird dogs. Now, these are fundamental exercises. Now, you might be thinking those are just simple rehab exercises, but I still do them to this day to warm up. They're really the foundation to building a bulletproof and pain-free back that will last through all the things you want to do in your life. These movements were so important at stabilizing my lower lumbar spine and making sure that the right muscles were doing the job. And so by focusing on those areas, I was able to free up my body as a holistic unit, and so that all the muscles were doing the job that they were supposed to. And as a result of that, the tension went away in other areas of my body. Fourth thing, mastering the mind-body connection. And so what this means is listening to your body and understanding that pain is not an enemy. Pain is your friend, right? The pain is your body telling you something is wrong. For years, I always thought push through the pain, take the pain meds, and just ignore it at all costs. And this was a big mistake, because my body is telling me something and I just wasn't listening. So this is a losing battle, because chronic pain isn't just physical, it becomes neurological. Your body learns specific patterns and it becomes fearful of those patterns. And as a result of that, chronic pain starts to develop. So if you've been in pain for months or even years, your body is always in that fight or flight, and it's always ready to be in pain, meaning it's always ready to respond. So chronic pain keeps your body stuck in high alert even when there's no danger. And so we start to understand that your mental state, your emotional state, all these things will start to influence your pain levels because it's happening on a neurological level. So here's what I started to do. First of all, I stopped fearing movement and I started to regress movement. So when you stop fearing it, you're actually able to start to progress. If your body's in a state of fear, it's going to be tight, it's going to be locked up, and as a result of that, you're not going to be able to move properly and move freely. Being able to do this allowed me to progress my movements to a point where I felt comfortable in building my body up and being able to progress to the next level. The next thing was starting to control my nervous system through breath work and meditation. Now, there's lots of different types of breath work you can do, and I won't advise you on that now, but the biggest takeaway here is being able to understand that you can control your physiological state through controlling your breath. And once you understand that, you can simply go on the internet and look at a long list of different breaths that you can do to start connect with your body. And if you can control your physiological state, you're going to be able to calm yourself or give yourself some confidence, whatever it is that you need. And so this was a huge thing for me. The other big thing was mindfulness meditation. Being able to feel where my body was, feel where I am now, be locked in the moment. Instead of trying to avoid pain and run from pain, I can listen to it, I could sit with it. And those two things together allowed me a level of freedom to be able to move forward.